Alright, okay. Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi. Salam sejahtera. So, how are you? Right?
Salam.
Hari
Fine,
ni
fine, thank you.
today Cikgu Firdaus dia pakai spaceship punya background lah. So, I think that I need to change into the same background. So, at least we are at the same. Kita tukar juga. Alright. Okay, we are so grateful because we have
Kita
PM Dr. Harini here.
kita tak boleh rentas negeri kan. So that's why kita rentas
udara. So we are very grateful because we have PM Dr. Harini here. I think as I mentioned before, PM Dr. Harini is my counterpart for these courses. So I hope that each of you don't feel so awkward because of Dr. Harini is a part of this a part of the teaching team for this subject. So all right, okay, before we go further, I think that last week we already talked about the conventional assessment method in which that on how we address our first project. And before that, all right, so I think that I want to give you some kind of updates about our platforms. So in which what I've mentioned last week, I will prepare for all of us one single platform that we can share everything. So we will share our project, and also we can refer the previous project, the most important part, because of and I do believe that most of us want to refer on the previous project, how did the student do their project, and let me to share with you the screen. All right, so what are the looks of the portfolio. So since yesterday I got all the images, so what I did this morning is to update. All right, and I think that you are more than happy because of these are the e-portfolio. All right, the e-portfolio, meaning that I will put the detail of your projects, and so far we have 3 profile. I just waiting for Amy give me the picture and also the URL. So quite impressed when I see Nurul Najiha portfolio. I think that her portfolio looks like quite established. Alright, rasanya macam dah lama buat mungkin. Alright, so I think that is quite interesting here. Maybe you need to update with the current project PSB 704. All right, and I just put your images. All right, so I think that Cikgu Fir also provide me the website, and I do believe that this one is under constructions, so we are waiting for the completions of the portfolio. Same goes with Nisa. All right, so Nisa, this is Nisa portfolio. All right, I think that Nisa also in the progress of doing things, but I see that Nisa uploaded diploma and degree artwork. I think that it's going to be okay for me. All right, boleh dia nak letak apa pun tak ada masalah, as long as the PSB 704, 724 project has been addressed in your portfolio. All right, but I will think for Aimi Najiha pictures. All right, and also the link of portfolio. As I mentioned last week classes, all right, I provided here there are some project from the previous semester, so you can refer into this Padlet. Some of them shared a very good practice. Then maybe you can see their work, and also provide the other semester's portfolio in which the same project, the same criteria, but with a different kind of work. So I think that the internet need to re-upload this file completely. I think that later you can see this portfolio and also see how they submitted their work. All right, so meaning that these are the compilations of our work, and I think that these are the scheme of work. All right, I think that there are maybe duplications of information in future with this platform, but again, I think that this platform is more accessible, and I want to use this platform to showcase our progress and project for this semester. All right. So this is a little brief on what we have to make sure that we can compile all this work, to make sure that so kurang-kurang nampaklah work kita tu is well organized, and also walaupun 4 orang but the quality of the artworks is still at par. So that's the reason why I try to appreciate all the content given by the students, and I think that at the end of the day, I hope that walaupun kita bekerja 4 orang, but again the quality of work is still the same with the previous semesters. So I think that there are no, orang kata apa, special treatments lah, I think, right? So they are still the same treatment, but again, I want to see that how do you share the outcome of these 2 projects, the conventional for the project 1 and also the alternative assessment for the project number 2. All right. So do you have any question to ask regarding on the portfolio that we that I have developed for us, and also maybe you have a concerns about your portfolio? All right. Maybe you want to raise up something before we start further. Is it okay? Everything is okay? Boleh-boleh aja. Alright.
So far it's good.
Okay lah.
Nisa kata so far okay lah. Dah sarapan belum Syarifah? Syarifah pula dah.
Syarifah.
Nisa, Syarifah mana ni kan?
Jadi saya tukar nama
Tak, sebab apa? Dekan text me tu yang ingat nama Dr. Syarifah. Dr. Syarifah. Okay, alright. Nisa okay Nisa?
Okay.
Najiha okay?
Dia nak sesuatu tu je lah.
Alright, it's okay. Just a precaution notes. Najiha dengan Nisa, please siram pokok dekat belakang tu to make sure that it's going fresh. Alright, it's okay. Alright. So I just want to share with you. There are one interesting video. Alright. So this might be related with our today topic. So I want you to listen ahead carefully and give your reflection based on this video. I hope that I can have this full screen, but unfortunately the full screen going blurry. So kalau tak dengar beritahu Dengar kan? Alright. Can you listen the video? Alright.
Yes, can.
Alright. So based on that particular video, I know that you a bit distracted with the technology apply on that class. I sure that you have been distracted with the technology. But you kata, berlaku ke kat Malaysia? Boleh berlaku. I think we have the blackboard, we have everything. But just a matter of whether you're able to purchase or not, kan? All the technology is applied, memang ada. But I don't want to concern about the technology. But what much concern me is the process and the activity. Alright, so based on that video, so what kind of process, what kind of activity, what kind of skills that the student required daripada awal tadi sampai akhir tadi. If you can see that from at the beginning of the video until the end of the video, there are a process, there are the output. But I want you to reflect what kind of process happened on that particular video?
Problem solving kan.
Problem solving, great.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking, great. What more?
Apa lagi satu tu? Okay, next turn. Siapa lagi?
Satu lagi apa? Critical thinking, problem solving, what more?
Apa lagi?
Yeah, perfect. Please sit down.
Thank you.
लेकिन सर मैंने भी तो वही बताया सर, आसान भाषा में। आपको अगर सिंपल भाषा पसंद हो तो आर्ट्स एंड कॉमर्स कॉलेज ज्वाइन कीजिए। लेकिन सर मतलब भी तो समझ में आना चाहिए। ऐसे किताबी डेफिनेशन रट के क्या फायदा? आप किताब से ज्यादा जानते हैं। किताब में यही डेफिनेशन है और अगर आपको पास होना हो तो आप यही लिखेंगे। लेकिन सर और भी तो किताबें हैं जिसमें ओह भाई आसान भाषा में बाहर जाइए। Idiot. So we were discussing about the machine. अरे तुम वापस क्यों आए हो? सर कुछ भूल गया सर। क्या? Instruments that record, analyze, summarize, organize, debate, and explain information that are illustrative, non-illustrative, hardbound, paperback, jacketed, non-jacketed, with forward introduction, table of contents, index that are intended for the enlightenment, understanding, enrichment, enhancement, and education of the human brain through sensory route of vision, sometimes touch. अरे कहना क्या चाहते हो? किताबें सर, बुक्स भूल गया सर, ले लो। तो सीधा सीधा नहीं कह सकते थे? थोड़ी देर पहले कोशिश की थी सर, लेकिन आपको सीधा सीधा पसंद नहीं आया।
Dia kata apa? Definition kya hai? Definition kya hai kan dia kata kan. So, what's wrong with this? Definition kya hai? What is apa maksud? What is machine definition kya hai kan? Apa maksud dia kan? How does you interpret this situation? There are bila you have to aware when we discuss about the learning taxonomy on the previous lecture. We are talking about the different types of questions will allow you to address kata apa, if you cannot define your questions, it will address you in many forms of answers. All right, so meaning that on that particular video, what are the teachers say? What is machine? Right? What is machine? So there are two categories of students who will answer these questions. The number one, those 100% have a knowledge about the definition of machine. But maybe there are another percent, they know the definition more than the definition, they know how to apply and to relate with their life. So kalau kita lihat kat sini, salah ke Amir Khan tadi? And you notice tak? Ada tak pelajar-pelajar macam ni dalam kelas you? Is it you notice this? Ingat tak? Cuba you reflect dulu. Cuba you reflect balik dulu. Waktu you dekat sekolah ke, dekat you punya pengajian you, pernah tak you mengalami keadaan macam ni? Have you have this experience? Bila cikgu kata jawapan you salah. Tapi you tahu jawapan betul. You know that the answer is right because of you try to relate with your real life situation. But again, the teacher say that your answer is wrong. Ada kan? Pernah kan? And then you macam bila you macam kenapa? Macam betul je. Alright. So this thing happen. So the reason why I show you this video, I want to relate you. If you want to treat your student with the conventional assessment, yes, you will get it. You will get the answer. It's depending on how you construct the questions and the student will return back. But if you construct your assessment towards on the alternative assessment, you will not find the right answer. You will always see and get the best answer. So what I want to relate here is how does the learning outcome can be addressed by having 3 level. Alright. So this is what we call as a topology of learning outcome. Kita masuk topology lagi ni. Topology of the learning outcome. What means the topology of learning outcome? Number one, the learning outcomes that focus on the knowing part, we call as syntactic. Alright, syntactic. Alright, syntactic meaning that the levels of at this particular of levels, they are required of the acquisition and the comprehensions of the information and knowledge for the specific areas. Alright, so you are focused on the knowledge acquisitions. So meaning that this one is our nature. Right? So if you want to know how to cook, you have to know what are the instruments to help you in cooking. If you want to know how to repair your bicycle, your motorcycle, your car, you need to have the basic fundamentals on doing that. So that one we call as knowing, syntactic. But syntactic, it doesn't mean that you can do that part. Setengah-setengah kita tahu tapi tak boleh buat. Betul tak? We know what we cannot apply. I give you one example. Ada longkang, jarak dia jarak dia dalam 6 kaki. You berdiri kat depan longkang tu and you say that rasa macam boleh lompat kot. Betul tak? You rasa because of you know that your brain automatically calculate, kata I boleh lompat. Hati you kata you boleh lompat. But if you kira dengan berat, dengan jarak dan juga dengan momentum, contohlah Najihah nak lompat dengan Nisa nak lompat, is it they will come up with the same trajectory? Tak sama lah. The force ni tak sama. Mungkin Najihah lompat sampai, mungkin Nisa lompat, mungkin tak lepas. So meaning that somehow we know how to do it but we cannot apply. Alright? So that's the reason why to know everything is a nature. But somehow there are second level. Second level meaning that we are looking at competency, meaning that this called as a semantic, right? Semantic includes 4 sub-intellectual activity, which is you need to apply, you need to analysis, you need to have the synthesis, and also you need to create, all right? And the reason why we need to focus on this because of the competency level, normally they are focused on preparing the competent learners who are ready to perform the job. So meaning that you know, and then you need to have the competency, you need to have the semantic to allow you to use your intellectual application and do your work. That's the first and second level is a common level. But the higher level is the pragmatic level. The pragmatic level meaning that the students will use the actual performance throughout the application of knowledge, the applications of analysis, synthesis, creations, and learn the content, and also they try to transfer the knowledge into the job. So the pragmatic meaning that you just not only can apply, but you can transfer the knowledge. So that's the reason why the alternative assessment, I think that it's much have the ability to transfer the knowledge more than the conventional assessment. So that's the reason why, how does we transfer the knowledge? All right, we see the video, right? We see the bridge video, we see the Amir Khan video. How does we transfer the knowledge? There are many types of transferring the knowledge. Just a matter of you have to decide whether you want to share with the student by knowing or by applying the knowledge. So when we talk about the alternative assessment, there are no way not applying the knowledge. You should apply the knowledge. So this is how can we address a very successful alternative assessment, not only for higher education, or maybe it can be applied throughout the education system from preschool until secondary school. Alright, so itu mukadimah untuk 33 minit yang pertama. Alright, mukadimah. Okay, so now what I'm trying to share here is we need to know what means by alternative assessment. All right, so let me to share the file here. I think that all of this file already uploaded into your UFuture. You can get access through UFuture. All right. Okay. Before we go further, what do you understand about alternative assessment? Your wild thought. Tak kisahlah apa-apa pun kan. Apa agak-agaknya alternative assessment ya? Siapa dapat jawab? You all kena hantar Burger King ke rumah saya, tak ada? It's okay. You all pula kena hantar, bukan saya. Alright, okay. Come on. What do you understand about alternative assessment? What means by alternative assessment?
Alternative assessment ni, what I believe is something that various terms, including alternative assessment.
All right.
So maybe it's some assessment integrative, and then they different with the traditional lah. Traditional assessment.
Cikgu Phil, bila you kata tadi integrative, what you mean by integrative? Can you explain more about it?
Seems like if previously we doing only one method, or what you call one style of assessment. I think macam kita just prefer pada hujung kan.
Alright.
Seems like macam kita tengok previous videos, which the process is keep going, then even kita dah tested, then dia buat balik, then kita akan terima yang akhir sampai dia boleh berjaya lah. Means that the method is not only the yang terakhir tu hanya sekali saja. So maybe it's keep going, and then until kita dapat final reach some period time lah.
Alright. Itu jawapan Cikgu Phil. How about the others? What do you understand about alternative assessment? What means alternative assessment to you?
Mungkin lah kan, alternative assessment ni macam sesuatu macam test like ujian ke, untuk tengok sama ada that student tu boleh buat benda tu ke, tak boleh buat that thing ke. I mean nak tengok kebolehan student tu sendiri.
Benda tu benda apa?
Macam test ke, or maybe group work ke.
Okay. Dulu can you reflect that when you
science tu semua macam
kan, when Najihah, can you reflect yourself waktu you buat diploma and degree? How many tests and examination has been how many tests and exam you have seated as compared than yang lain-lain? Banyak buat assessment yang macam mana?
Kalau daripada segi produk lah, contoh produk sendiri, macam contoh foto lah, saya ambil foto dulu. So macam contoh ada progress benda tu, progress and then macam tu lah.
Dulu pun
mungkin bagi saya lah test kalau untuk time degree mungkin pelbagai cara dari segi macam kalau kita orang macam Jiha cakap kan, kita buat produk, mungkin dari segi kita punya assessment daripada evaluation daripada kita punya portfolio, ataupun mungkin kadang open book test ke, benda-benda yang macam tu.
Presentation,
right. Okay, great. So meaning that apa-apa selain daripada test and examination we call alternative assessment lah, because of the conventional assessment normally we are focused on the test and examination. So that's the reason why the alternative assessment is towards on looking at the integrative element, such there is some assignment that maybe can address on the cognitive, affective and psychomotor, right? So I give you an example. All right, I give you one example. For example, you need to do one project. All right. That project really require you to have on solving the problems, all right, in which we will assess your cognitive ability. But again, there are some that project also need you to do some kind of research. You need to meet the people. You need to present your proposal, and this require you to have a more on the affective domain. So meaning that, for example, you need to do some kind of interview, need to do some kind of case study, presentation and whatnot. And if you can realize when you want to come up with a product, you should do something that related that you have to use your psychomotor activity. You have to build the product, you have to construct the products, and at the end of the day, we will get one solid product based and going through the process. So that means by how does this alternative assessment can be addressed, and also this alternative assessment is not only looking on one specific domain, which is cognitive, but also they are looking the integrations of many forms of ability. All right. So, but however, there are many strategies that you can use on assessing your student through alternative assessment. All right. So, how can we use this technique? And for sure, we want to apply this technique in our many strategy. So I share with you one of the best strategy that we can use in our alternative assessment is by looking at the potentials of self and peer assessment. Ini mesti ramai pernah buat self assessment. Alright, I bagi a very simple one. Alright, very simple one. You all semua pernah tak order makanan Domino's ke KFC ke McDonald's ke? Pernah? You dah dapat makanan. Alright, you dah dapat makanan. Alright. Nanti dia akan keluar email. Dia akan bagi you email. Betul? Email tu akan tanya you self evaluation on the product satisfaction. Betul? Jawab tak? Kalau jawab, you akan dapat one free breadstick. Kan? Kalau Domino's Pizza selalu macam tu lah, one free breadstick, ataupun you will get a one free large pizza. Voucher lebih kurang kan? So then you will put your effort to evaluate lah whether the packaging is nice or not, whether the blah 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 blah. Is it you are satisfied? What do you feel? What do you feel? It's about you. It's about you and that product. That we call is one of the examples of self-assessment. Alright? Itu salah satu contoh. Itu salah satu contoh. Ada tak lagi self-assessment yang lain? Boleh? You reflect yourself. Self-assessment. Ataupun ingat tak waktu kita mula-mula masuk kelas hari tu, you all kena buat entrance survey. Yang banyaknya Dr. Syam yang paksa suruh buat, bukan paksa, suruh buat kan, yang kita suruh buat hari tu, and then you pun tanda. That one is self-assessment. Alright, so meaning that the self-assessment is actually to diagnose with a specific purpose. Alright, so this will allow you, to re-evaluate and to reassess your current situation. So that's the reason why self and peer assessment is very helpful to diagnose the ability of the students. All right. So that's the reason why, in the perspective of teaching and learning, we use self and peer assessment to define our assessment objective. I give you an example. Before kelas 30 minit lah, for example. Okay, kelas 30 minit nak ajar you pasal graphic communications. Alright. So before I start the class, I give you one form. You self-evaluate yourself how much you know about graphic communication. When you fill up the self-evaluation, and then I teach and we do some kind of interactions within 20 hours, and at the end of the day, I ask you to recheck again whether there are improvement before you enter my class and after you listen my lecture. So because of why? Because of I want to ensure that my objective is really meet on that particular of time. So meaning that this is a checking mechanism to ensure that can I ensure that the learning objective is being achieved or not. All right. So this is very important, and we also want to see that the quality of the students when they the quality of the student when they are going through the class. So kita nak tahu lah pelajar tu faham ke tak faham, dia ada kesukaran atau tidak ada kesukaran, because of this self and peer evaluation will help us to do the intervention. Contohnya kan, minggu ni I buat kelas, I bagilah satu self assessment. There are, maybe I have 10 students, 4 of the students understand, another 6 not clear with what I'm saying. So I need to do some kind of interventions, and I need to rework again and let them to understand better from the previous class. So this is the intervention, give me some kind of information. All right. On the perspective of educators, yes, we need that information to help to improve our teaching and learning. So how does it reflect to the students? The students use this self and peer assessment because of they want to get the feedback and they want to improve. And of course, yes, when we talk about the self and peer assessment, normally they are offering you the feed forward for the future improvement, meaning that you know where and how to improve yourself. And you start to reflect on your works, you start to do something, and you start to think about how can I do better for the next coming class or next coming assessment or whatnot. All right. And the reason why I like to use self and peer assessment, because of this will indicate me how focused my student. I'll give you one example. Normally for my classes, we do that. We understand that every time we have our final assessment, most of the students, maybe I ask them to have the presentation. And I do agree that biasanya lah budak-budak ni lah, pelajar-pelajar kita ni, bila kawan-kawan dia present, how they behave. They don't bother about what their friends presented. Alright, kan? Pernah tak alami perasaan waktu you nak present, semua orang tu tak reti je apa yang you present. Kan dia buat hal dia sibuk touch up dia punya slide. Sama lah, you all pun sama juga ni, kalau kawan you all present pun touch up dia punya slide kan, betulkan sana, betul sini, tak bagi perhatian dan sebagainya, and then end up kawan you present for nothing lah, because you are not listening carefully. So what I did for my class, especially for undergraduates lah kan, when the student have the presentation, I will design a one peer assessment evaluations and let them to rate their friends' work. So meaning that there are no ways for them to do their works. They have to focus on their friend presentation. And this survey, I will immediately share in the group and let their friends to know how their friends rates their work. So meaning that there are reflection between peers, and how does peers look at their work, and how does the peers give the feedback immediately without any prejudice. So that's the reason why I like to use this as a diagnostic assessment, because of I want to see the retention of the learning, I want to see the feed forward of for teaching and learning, and this is normally ungraded. Somehow it can be graded, but I want to see the opportunity for the improvement. So this is how does the self and peer assessment has been addressed. Okay. How about the second one? We have the group-based assessment. All right. I think that this one is the most popular approach that we can use throughout our learning journey lah, daripada preschool sampai lah ke higher education ni pun memang we love to use group-based education. Because of what? Because it makes the learning more relevant, more interesting, and more enjoyable. Betul tak? Siapa tak suka kerja kumpulan? Kan? Aimi dengan Najiha dengan Najiha pun duduk sebelah-sebelah, kerja kumpulan juga. So siapa tak suka kerja kumpulan? Kan, semua orang suka kerja kumpulan. But somehow, what are the disadvantage doing the group based? MIA lagi. This is personal experience Nisa. MIA.
Saya tengok banyak dekat Twitter budak-budak komplain pasal ni. So far tak adalah saya problem macam tu.
Ini budak-budak Twitter lah.
Tengok dia orang komplain.
MIA tu apa?
Missing in action.
Hilang. Pernah tak buat kerja satu kumpulan, yang buat kerja ni 2 orang je. Yang lagi 2 orang tu tak, Dia tak
Tidur.
tidur je, sleeping giant kan, sleeping giant partner kan, tidur je kan. Alright. Dekat sekolah macam mana Cikgu Fir?
Itu common lah.
Common
Sebab
kan?
tu kita memang akan diversify betul-betul.
Kena diversify. I like the word diversify. Macam mana you diversify?
Kita take note, kita pun kenal, kita pun dah grouping certain student yang mana macam tu lah. So kita akan mentionkan lah mana yang macam kita notice nampak macam unpleasant punya co-work dengan kawan dia tu. So dia ada peranan lain lah kita akan bagi. Dia mesti dia akan ada role dia. Even kalau dia sebagai presenter ke, dia sebagai mesti participant lah. At least dia fair pada another lah. Walaupun tak best kan, present dia tak sampai kan, tapi kena lah.
Normally when the group based happen in the classroom, there are one culture that they are love and they are like to work within their colleague. Alright, so meaning that kalau dekat mesti katalah kalau dia ada kawan dia puak A, puak B macam tu. So that's because that somehow is not efficient. And for your information, there are one instruments that allow us to see the differentiations of strength between these students. So if you have a time, maybe you can search on the clock learning instrument. So they can divide you into forms, into 4 forms of people: convergent, converger, diverger, assimilator, pragmatic. So you can differentiate the strength of the students accordingly, and you can distribute them according to the strength. Kan? I bagi contoh lah kan, for example, there are one group, a couple group. Siapa pernah masuk grup couple? Kan? Couple laki dengan perempuan, couple ya mestilah couple laki dengan perempuan kan. So couple, and then tiba-tiba you dengan kawan you 2 orang macam there's no relation lah kan. Macam nanti dia akan jadi macam tu lah. Dia akan jadi ada macam Mr. Toretto and Miss Toretto. Kan? Meaning that you ada Mr. Alpha and Miss Alpha. So somehow it doesn't work. Alright, dia tak boleh ada, contohnya dalam grup tu dia tak boleh ada 2 alpha. Betul? Kan? Tak boleh ada 2 alpha. You kena ada seorang alpha, seorang thinker, seorang seorang yang boleh approach. So this is group means. Kalau you sempat tengok on the clock learning story, clock learning instrument, you understand what I mean. Because of what? Because of the most efficient group based assessment is the group is able to manage the people, and how does the students gather all the complex solution within their team members. Meaning that if you have one case, maybe you can have 5 solution with 5 different head. And how does you manage this? We are talking about managing the peoples. And when we talk about managing the peoples, normally the lecturer will assess on the attitudes, on the reflections, on the thinking process, and the most important part, how does the student integrate the complex skill knowledge to become one solid solution. So that's the reason why the group-based assessment sounds like very interesting, but if you don't know how to handle this, you will get the wrong output. Alright, so sebab itu kadang-kadang kalau you realize when the student do their presentation, if they start to delegate, there are no, wrong. Tak boleh berlaku macam tu. Kan? Okay, Dr. Syam, I dah ada 4 kumpulan. Okay, Nisa chapter 1, Cikgu Fir chapter 2, Najihah chapter 3, Aimi chapter 4. Okay, gang, nanti bila lecturer tanya soalan, jawab ikut chapter tau. Chapter kau aku tak tahu. Betul tak?
Betul. Selalu macam tu.
Selalu macam tu kan? Okay. Sekali tiba-tiba waktu hari presentation, Aimi tak datang. Chapter 3 chapter 4 dah tak ada, Aimi tak datang. Then, macam mana nak buat? Kan? That's the problem. Lepas tu kena pula Dr. Samsul dah tahu Aimi tak datang. dia akan tanya lah soalan chapter 4 tu banyak berbanding chapter yang lain. So meaning that, then I realized that, oh no, okay, no, I know how do you work. You are delegating, you are not incorporating, right? Kan? So bukan saja nak cerita kat student, kadang-kadang pensyarah-pensyarah pun macam tu juga, kan? Tetapi pensyarah-pensyarah, because of they have a very high complex problem solving, walaupun nampak macam delegate, when it comes to the time, they're able to manage to integrate all the ideas. Because they are professionals, kan? Sebab tapi kalau pelajar-pelajar dia bukan macam tu. Betul tak?
Tapi doktor, kalau based on macam group based assessment kan,
Yep.
dia ikut apa tu, the macam group of 7 macam tu kan. So
Yeah.
I think kalau macam lesser the apa,
Lesser
dia
the group
punya-
is much the better lah.
sebab saya pernah sekali dalam 10 orang macam tu. So macam kira kalau nak lead tu dia memang adalah dalam daripada 10 orang tu
Lisa,
adalah
dia kalau 10 orang tu Lisa, itu acara berakit.
pernah kita orang dapat macam tu 10 orang macam tu.
Kan? Itu acara berakit ke tepi-tepian, berenang-renang kemudian, itu dah ramai sangat. The best forms of group base, I think that if you can have lesser than 5 is much better. 5 tu pun dah rasa banyak dah. Kan, 4 to 5 because of we want to focus. Kan? Sebab tu don't so much worry the big numbers of the group. Sebab tu kadang-kadang kalau pelajar-pelajar kita 30 orang, so we should distribute them mungkin dalam 4 atau 5 orang dah cantik dah, kan. Memang the group akan jadi banyak, but the student is much better for the student, more good to the student because of they can work clearly. Kan, kalau dah 10 orang nak buat kerja macam mana? Kan, unless
Betul.
you can
Kita banyak kumpulan, so the ideas.
Yeah, right. Agree tak dengan saya? You agree with me? Kan, so
Sebab dah ada experience kan.
Ya,
So
ya,
dia
setuju,
memang
right. So sebab apa? Kalau group work ni, markah macam ni, markah sama lah kan, betul tak? Kan, kalau misal kata Nisa dapat 10, Aimi yang tak datang tadi pun dapat 10. Betul? Cool. So that's the reason why yes, walaupun orang nampak benda tu macam it is really good to have it, but nice to have it, but somehow how do you mechanize these things is something that you need to think carefully. Alright, this is one of the examples of the group-based assessment that I have did with my students. I think that there are some portion, but surprisingly for this semester tak boleh buat because we have about 400 students in this class. Alright, so 4 orang je dalam kelas ni, so kita tak boleh nak buat group work. So but my previous class we have quite a such numbers, alright, and I arrange one group for 3 students and we do some kind of group-based assessment. And what I can say here is one of the best attribute that we can assess our student is by looking at their interpersonal skill. I love to see their interpersonal skill. How does the student interact with their peers, and how does the student interact with their facilitators or lecturers? And the most important part is how does the students interact among themselves by having these 3 factors: listening, questioning, and negotiating. Alright, in the group base, perkara yang paling sukar sekali nak buat adalah listening. If you don't listen when people talk, how can you integrate all the solutions? Betul? All the best solution. You cannot, you won't able. So meaning that the first thing that you need to have is the listening skill. Listen first and react. Let them to talk. Let them to talk sampai habis. Tapi inilah PN kita kadang-kadang, orang tak habis cakap lagi, you sibuk nak cakap. Pernah tak tengok? Orang tengah bercakap, yang seorang lagi tu macam cepat kan? Betul tak? Kan? There are no respect. I pernah ingat lagi my mantan TNC, I don't want to mention. There's one situation in the meeting. In the group. When this person talking, there are another person dia punya adrenaline rush nak bercakap juga. And he cross the conversations, dan memang the mantan TSC is not happy lah. Not happy, dia kata apa? Can you listen first and react later. Give she and he a chance to talk. While she or he finish, then you can talk. So meaning that these are the culture, these are the tolerance that we need to put in our class. So let them to listen. When you listen carefully, and you will ask a nice questions. Kan? Sebab kadang-kadang orang tu tak habis cakap lagi, you dah sibuk bertanya dah. Orang tu baru nak cakap kejap lagi, dia baru habis 3 perenggan, nak masuk perenggan keempat. Yang perenggan keempat tu yang dia cakap, you dah tanya soalan tu. So when you listen carefully, you will ask a good question, a nice questions, then you try to negotiate. Jangan bergaduh. How can you negotiate? Saya mencadangkan A. Kan? Negotiate lah. Saya cadang B. Oh, saya tak setuju. A dengan B tak boleh pakai. Saya nak pakai C. You're not negotiating. Kan? You are fighting. Not negotiate. Okay, rasanya cadangan A okay. Tapi boleh tak kita tengok cadangan B, cadangan C? Boleh tak kita look on the weaknesses, on the strength on our solutions, and how can we integrate the solution? The leader play an important role. Alright, so these are the what we call the interpersonal skill that we can assess through our alternative assessment. Kalau dekat tempat lain tak boleh tengok, but going through the alternative assessment, we can see this. Alright, and to see this, we need to provide them with the performance-based assessment. What you mean by performance-based assessment? Meaning that you will measure your students to apply the knowledge, to apply the skill, what they have learned. So meaning that you need to engage them with a meaningful task. Alright, I give you one example. This is my example of class. Kelas saya lah untuk PSB 702, dulu 704. Kelas saya, yang ingat tak yang you all buat yang kertas yang bahasa Melayu tahun 4 tu? Yang tu you all buat seorang-seorang kan? Yang ini they did in the group base. Alright, so I give them a time to do the analysis for that particular to that particular exam papers, only 45 minutes. So they have to work in group. So ini adalah lebih ramai. Waktu ni kelas ni sangat ramai lah. Alright. So what I did here is I did this vetting simulation process for testing and examination. I give them a real world scenario. I give them a real world solution. It's purely a true exam paper yang saya ambil kat sekolah, yang saya bagi pada pelajar-pelajar saya. And they have to solve the problems. They have to strengthen their critical thinking. They have to strengthen their problem solving. And they just not only just not only to solve the problems. They have to they have to present in the forms of case study. They have to present the data. They have to present everything within 45 minutes. So if you want to see the real performance of the students, you need to bring them in a condition that allow them to respond with that learning experience. Contohnya kan, kenapa art students, when you want to learn the fundamentals of drawing, you have to go out. Kenapa tak boleh buat kat rumah? Lukis pokok tapi duduk dalam rumah.
Tak dapat real source lah.
Dapatlah pokok plastik lah. Sekali ingat tak dulu waktu kita buat diploma lu kan, buat diploma lu first year, kita selalu pergi Bukit Cerakah tu kan. Tak tahu lah kalau pelajar Shah Alam dia pergi Bukit Cerakah kan. Pergi Bukit Cerakah, suruh tengok pokok. Sebab apa? Sebab that condition allow us to stimulate, the condition tu membenarkan untuk kita stimulate keadaan tersebut. So maksudnya bila kita tengok pokok tu, kita akan macam, oh ini okay, they give you some meaning. Right, bila kita tengok tu, alright, okay, lukis tu, kita akan lukis betul-betul dan kita akan reflect, kita akan menghayati, kita akan macam-macam berlaku dalam art activity itu. That's the reason why you have to bring the students to the real the real conditions kan. Contohnya macam pelajar seni kan. Kenapa pelajar seni tak buat dekat dalam makmal sains? Mana boleh. Pelajar seni mesti kena pergi bilik seni. Pergi bilik seni mesti kena guna alat-alat seni. Betul tak? Dia tak boleh simpan alat seni tu. So that's the reason why we need to bring the student with the appropriate learning environment. Kan? Jadi this is will help the student to stimulate, this will help the students to engage, this is what will help the student to construct a new meaning of their learnings. Alright? So contohnya, one of the example that we can do, the presentations, we do the portfolio, the performance. For example, minggu ni, for example, for the there are some faculties, contohnya macam my music, alright? Music, you have to perform, alright? So when you perform, meaning that you need to give them a real instruments. Kan, kalau nak main gitar, kena main real gitar lah. Then you can feel the feelings of playing guitar. Kan, if you don't have a guitar, boleh pakai iPad, pakai GarageBand, main gitar pakai iPad, boleh. But as long as they will give you able to stimulate, kan, tak dapat pengalaman menggunakan tak dapat pengalaman menggunakan tanah liat, kan, you boleh pakai paper clay, you boleh pakai tisu, you boleh pakai macam-macam. So how do you improvise and let them to feel the experience is the most important part. Alright, and we also have the technology base, and we try to integrate it with so many technology base. We can have the gamifications, we can have many kind of technology throughout the use of web-based 2.0. Kan? And then you can construct so many things. You can use the MOOCs, you can use the Kahoot, Quizzy, Google Survey, and any appropriate tools to assess your students. Alright, and the reason why we need to use the technology, because of it will give us a very direct data. You will know this data indirectly. You don't need to wait. You can immediately get the data, and you can do the intervention immediately. This is one of the examples of the Quizzy. I give them a few questions. They answer the questions, but you can see there are red plotting there. There are lots of the students may not understand on the question number 7, question number 8, and how do you want to address this, and how can you help the students to improve that particular area. So the technology give us some kind of data driven, not only to provide us absolute marks of the formative assessment, but also provide us the diagnostic and also the formative assessment to address there is some issue happen in our teaching and learning. Alright, so ada banyaklah apps yang kita boleh gunakan, kan? Ada banyak apps yang kita boleh gunakan. I think that this is so related with your second project. Alright, we have this self-peer-based assessment. You can use the Google form, you can use Quizzy, Kahoot, Socratic, Pull Everywhere, Formative, Slido, Turn It In. You can use it and you can embed in your second project. Same goes with the group-based project. We can have a Padlet, we can have a classroom, Trello, Google Keep, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slide, Genially, Nearpod, Flipgrid, Mentimeter. So you may not use all, but you can choose which one is the best for your second project. You also can have the portfolio. What I have developed for you before this, I created for you the Google Sites. You already have the portfolio, you can use that one. And also you can use the performance-based assessment, as I mentioned before. You can use for the gamification, you can use for many things to address on the second project. All right, so I just want to highlight a bit on the portfolio-based assessment. As I mentioned before, I really love on the e-portfolio. That's the reason why I construct the e-portfolio for us, and you also construct for your portfolio for yourself. All right, because of what? Because of when we're promoting the e-portfolio, is actually we are looking on the analytical thinking. Why you say the analytical thinking? Because of curating informations, curating content, and creating content is something related on how you think critically. You will need to use the analytical thinking. I give you one example. If I want to create some content, it really required me to curate, articulate, and also share the new idea of the content. So that's the reason why the thinking process is a major component on doing the portfolio-based assessment. Because of what? The reason why, because we want to reflect the content and we want to share the content with our specific audience. All right, and the e-portfolio is very beneficial because of we can store the artwork, we can do some kind of workplace there, and we can showcase our strength and opportunity, and also every single evidence that you input in your portfolio base, it will show you to the audience your skill sets and values. Okay, I give you one example lah. Contoh tadi, I very impressed when I see Nurul Najihah punya portfolio kan. By looking at Google Meet, I see that Najihah ni macam biasa je. Kan? What's so special about Najihah? Nothing much. But when I see her portfolio, I am impressed. I am so impressed. So meaning that there are tendency people not so impressed with your outlook. Maybe they are not impressed with your grade, but they will impress with your portfolio. So kan, jadi I tengok Najihah punya portfolio tadi macam, wah dahsyat lah budak ni. Kan? Kan Najihah. Compliment to Najihah. It's a compliment. Alright. Buat elok-elok lah. Bila kita dah puji tu, kena buat lah elok-elok lagi. Alright. So then that's the skill set, the value that you can see through the portfolio, meaning that yang itu yang you tak nampak dalam sekeping kertas yang bergrade tersebut. Kan? And I think that the now the schools, they have this initiative, right? They have the portfolio initiative, and even for the some of the university also they are focused on this initiative too. Alright? And these are the examples of the e-portfolio. Saya tak suka tunjuk sampel orang lain. I prefer to share me as example. Alright, this one is the portfolio. The portfolio can be course portfolio, integrated portfolio, and professional portfolio. And what you can see here is the professional portfolio. And I know that Najihah also using the Wixsite as their professional portfolio, as their course portfolio. Alright, so these are the course portfolio. Alright, these are the student portfolio. Alright, so meaning that you also will have this kind of portfolio. And I think that when we do our PDPR, and most of the students at higher education doing their ODL, and there are some of the students at preschool also creating their portfolio, I think that we should look at this potential. All right, we need to think on the similar concept like this, because of I do believe that if we can manage, if every student can manage to have this e-portfolio for every each of one, I think that you will see your progress over the time. Kan? Nak tahu you bagus tak bagus, daripada semester 1 sampai semester 6, if you have the e-portfolio, you rasa you bermakna tak you belajar? Mesti bermakna. Mesti you kata, bukannya tak ingat, I ingat, tapi sebenarnya dalam portfolio I. Kan? Berapa banyak subjeknya you ingat? Dan sinilah nak tanya lah. Okay, ada berapa banyak subjek satu semester degree?
6.
Tak, degree.
Itulah 6. Ada, I think paling banyak 6 kot.
6 kot kursus? 6 kat kursus? Yelah. Okay, Dr. Harini nak keluar undur diri. Okay, thank you Dr. Harini for joining us, for thank you for your time. Alright. Take care Dr. Harini. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you Dr. Harini. Bye. Stay safe.
Thank
Bye,
you Dr.
Sorry,
Harini.
ciao. Anyway, Najihah punya portfolio tu, we did that masa ADE 620, right?
Yeah, I realized that. Yeah.
So
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
So continue. Thank you.
Alright, okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Alright, so bagus kan kalau dapat lihat kan. For example, kalau misalnya katalah degree kan, degree ada lebih kurang dalam 40 subjek kot. 45 subjek. Lupa dah Satu semester ambil 5 ke 6 kan, 6 hingga 7 subjek kan.
Oh, overall tadi. Saya ingat
Overall, yes.
system.
It's overall. It might be you have about 40 to 45 subjek per
Banyak ke
year.
degree?
Banyak kan. So
Yes.
if you can collect this in your e-portfolio, you will see every each of the codes. Ya, wonderful kan? Kan? Tapi kita tak terfikir. Betul tak?
Macam tu dia tak ada kepentingan dan keperluan.
Macam contoh Najiha buat yang 620 tu. Walaupun dia sikit, tapi you boleh bayang tak? Sikit untuk sebab dia satu. How about kalau 45? Is it your employer will be impressed with you? They will. Lepas tu dia dah tak bother dah pasal grade you. They bother about your personality. They bother about your contribution. Kan? Sebab hari ni pun sebenarnya, if you ask me, instead of looking on the grade, the employer also looking at the personality. Kan? How does you use your social media? How does you use your everything lah kan? Sebab sekarang remaja hari ni kan sebenarnya terdedah dengan social media kan. And I think that one of the criteria that the employer will look at is to assess your social media account. Nak tengok you macam mana, they will assess on that. Alright. Tapi kalau dia assess tu tiba-tiba nampak portfolio Nurul Najiha. Kan? Oi, portfolio dia hebat lah, tak banyak kontroversi. I think that they will hire you. I think that they will. Alright. Okay. Ini one of the example of the portfolio is not limited only for the Google site. You can use the YouTube channel to create your passive income. Dapatlah beli software sikit-sikit kan. Nak beli baju tak dapat lah kan, tapi dapatlah gaji sikit-sikit kan. Bolehlah invest. So these are one of the platform that the kids like to use. Contoh macam TikTok education lah, bukan TikTok yang berjoget yang sungguh-sungguh tu. Kan yang TikTok education ataupun Instagram for education boleh buat, tak ada masalah. Just a matter of on how you want to transform this. And I have one of my students conduct a study doing their e-portfolio using Instagram. Boleh buat, tak ada masalah. Alright. And the most important part here is how can we assess this? Macam mana nak assess? How can we assess this? Maksudnya tadi when we know that how to what we call how to conduct the alternative assessment, and the most important part here is how can we assess our students. All right. So how to assess our students? We can use rubric. For alternative assessment, normally we are using rubric to assess our students. So what do you understand about rubric?
Yeah.
What do you understand about rubric?
Seems like macam satu scheme of marks lah. Dia macam dia ada qualification kalau untuk certain marks, kalau dia dapat qualify certain area kan. Macam 20 point.
Okay, lagi? Yang lain?
Kita ikut based on the score grade on the rubric assess tu. So
Yes.
Untuk grading the students performance ke macam dia orang punya assessment macam tu lah, dan yang tu kita refer as our evaluation on the student lah macam tu.
Right. Okay. So to allow us to assess our students, especially when we talk about alternative assessment, because of we are talking about addressing authentic problem. We are talking about assessing authentic tasks to the students. So meaning that the rubric will allow us to communicate with our expectation. So what is our expectation? All right, what we want from our students. All right, so we need to list up and then let them to know that clearly, because of this really required them to fulfill with all the criteria. And how to allow you to communicate with the expectation, you need to have a very clear what kind of rubric that you want to use, what are the criteria, what are the skills, and also the most important part, when you have that one, then it allows you to provide the feedback. So meaning that when the student get the rubric first, you assess the students and you will comment your student based on the rubric. Pernah tak ada pencara, dia suruh buat presentation, dia tak bagi rubrik, lepas tu dia komen macam-macam. Gitu kata nak lain. Cuma present nak lain. Ada? Ada?
Ya, previously ada.
Ada kan?
Even
Saya itu hari tu doktor suruh saya present benda lain. Tapi waktu presentation doktor minta saya lain pula. Because they don't have the rubrics. That's the reason why the expectation is not real. Kan Najiha kan? Saya cakap dengan Najiha minggu depan saya nak you fokus buat yang A. Tiba-tiba Najiha pun datang, dia dah siap buat sampai di bentang A. Najiha, saya rasa A ni macam tak sesuai. Najiha kena buat macam ni boleh? Najiha ni dah respon dah yang A tadi tu. Kan?
Pendirian tak tetap.
Pendirian tak tetap. Dia orang kata apa? Dia kacau. Jiwa kacau. Kan? Tak boleh. So meaning that every time must have the rubric to explain the expectation of each single task that given to the students. And because of what, when you get the feedback and you improve, when you get the feedback and the students start to reflect, and you will give a very fair marks to your students. That's the reason why on developing a rubrics, you need to know what are the purpose of the learning task. The second one, you need to choose the types of rubrics. Rubric ni ada dua jenis, analytical rubrics and also holistic rubric. But what we want to know here is to have the analytic rubrics. We need to have the criteria, we need to have the rating scales, and we need to have the written descriptors. Alright, so this is very important because of what? Because of the written descriptors will allow us to illustrate the best, to discriminate the students' ability. Alright, so sekarang ni kita nak buat rubrik. Contohlah kita nak buat satu rubrik lah. Okay, saya nak buat satu rubrik dengan you all. Apa yang saya nak buat ialah kita akan share this document. Sebab saya dah minta you all bawa biskut masing-masing kan. Okay. Now, I akan share link Google Docs di chat room. Okay. You can access this. Okay, saya akan paparkan. Okay. Oh, dah ada dah. Alright. Done. Okay. Now, dah ada biskut masing-masing. Okay. Saya dah ada biskut saya. Okay. Oh boy, berbekal-bekal. Okay. So sekarang ni, apa yang saya akan buat adalah, number one, I will establish the table. So what I want to do here is to insert the table. Nanti tambah-tambah lah So number one, we need to know what we need to have here is the criteria. Alright. This is the skill. I'm not so sure what kind of skill yang nak pakai. Nanti you decide, I letakkan saja dulu. And every each of the skill need to have the descriptor. Okay, now
nak tanya.
Ya, tanya.
Apa yang skill tu apa dia? Like berapa orang ke apa ke?
Skill tu must be in numbers. Kita nak buat skill in numbers. Contohnya the skills tu you can use a Likert scale, you can use range, You can use percentage, you can use any forms of skills. Yang the most important part, it must be in numbers. Okay, contoh. Okay, kita pergi satu-satu dulu. Alright, when we want to do the rubrics, so we need to be very clear what our purpose of the rubric. Sebab tu saya minta you buat biskut. So now, I ada biskut ni. Alright, so what are the purpose of what of the purpose of the biscuit? What are the purpose of the biscuit? What are the purpose of the rubric? So we need to state here. We want to find the best biscuit.
Ingredient.
No, belum lagi. Best biscuit. Kita kata we want to find the best biscuit. Alright. So now, bila tengok biskut ni, apa kriteria yang membolehkan you untuk mengatakan bahawa biskut ini sedap? Makanan biskut.
Crunchy.
The crunch.
Type.
Lemak manis. Lemak masin.
Stay taste lah.
Type. You type lah.
Have
You all
Type
type.
lemak masin tu.
oh.
Type kat mana?
Taklah. Type lah kriteria. Type
Okay.
kriteria ni. Tadi kata apa? Taste kan? Okay, taste.
Oh.
Betul, taste. Okay.
Texture.
Okay, texture. Lagi?
The golden color. Cik bah.
Color.
So sekarang ni, apa yang you nak kena buat adalah, alright, taste dengan structure ni, taste dengan texture ni berbeza ke sama?
Berbeza.
Berbeza.
Berbeza, okay. Kalau taste apa yang you kata sedap? Macam mana yang taste yang you kata sedap tu?
Dia ada rasa
masin, lemak masin.
Salty,
Salty,
buttery,
creamy.
creamy. Hello?
Inilah.
Kan? Contohlah kan? Okay. Contohlah skala, misal kata likat saya sini 1, 2, 3. Macam mana nak membezakan salty, buttery, creamy ni ikut kepada tahap-tahap level ni? Apa yang nak kena buat?
Oh, biasa-biasa yang very salty, neutral tu semua kan?
Buat. Type.
very
Kita pula type untuk dia. Type. Okay, buat. Sedap pula biskut ni. Come on. Type je.
Ya, tak boleh nak type je.
Tak type Sekejap. Type ni macam boleh type.
request access.
Boleh. Boleh edit. Oh, patutlah. Kejap. Okay, editor. Okay. Contoh. Apa lagi? Texture. Lagi?
Color.
Shape. Sama ke?
Shape betul? Shape boleh. Tapi descriptor dia apa? Descriptor dia. Macam mana nak distinguish?
Yang strongly disagree semua tu ke?
Ya betul. Tapi kita tak nak macam tu. Yang itu dia terlalu vague. Dia apa? Dia jelas.
Useful. Tak.
Cuba. Kita tunggu je.
When
Doktor, kalau yang macam average, good, excellent tu ke?
Ya betul, kita nak discriminate kan. Ya betul, kita nak asingkan average, good semua tu, tapi kita nak dia something yang relatable dengan kita punya kriteria lah.
Dia yang macam taste, tasteless tu semua kan?
Ya,
Taste.
betul. Ya, buat je boleh, betul. Boleh diterima.
Then level 1 tu less salty, less buttery, creamy. Then secondly dia upgrade sikit kan, dia ada then the third level mungkin okay lah, dia ada more lah, dan number 4 perfect.
Contoh
Jadi kita
macam
nak
ni,
macam tu kan, dia ada
ya betul. Contoh macam ni. Katalah high sugar content, betul tak?
betul?
Kan? So you need to set
Yes.
Kau tu kena buat biskut tu, cuba rasa biskut tu banyak kali. Kita moderate.
Ya, moderate sugar content.
Apa
Then
lagi?
then 3, 4.
Ini jawapan saya tau, saya dah buat satu, you all buat apa? You all kena fikirkan, seorang satu buat. Alright.
Kenapa tak boleh nak type ah?
Okay. Kejap.
Cuba I refresh.
Kena refresh, cuba refresh. Cuba rasa biskut tu betul-betul, apa lagi yang you boleh letak?
Design, boleh?
Boleh? Design of the biscuit ke design of packaging?
Design of the biscuit. Appetizing apa tu? Packaging boleh juga.
Boleh? Boleh.
Packaging.
How about the price? Banyak boleh buat. Shape, color, size, kan? Size pun boleh. Alright. Kita kata too big, is it too big? Not agronomic. Until up to that stage kita tengok biskut ni. For consumer. Alright. Acceptable. Alright. Practical, kan? Practical size, kena practical size. Macam you agak-agak size biskut Afsan ni practical tak?
Okey lah. Dia
Ya kan?
dia susah nak masuk kontainer.
Masuk kontainer payah sikit. Masuk kontainer mungkin dia pakai kontainer yang box. Yang betul-betul dia square.
Betul-betul.
Macam saya ni kontainer ni dia bulat kan? Dia dah bisa bersepah lah. Have age. Pandai pun. Texture tu banyak tau sebenarnya. Texture tu contohnya kita boleh tengok hard, kita boleh tengok oily, kan? Kita boleh tengok brittles. Betul tak? Ni brittles. Too soft. Not consistent. Apa lagi? Soft, consistent, and suitable. Okay, alright. Semua dah dapat cari. Bagus. Alright. So this is how we develop our rubrics. And I think that normally biasanya kalau kita dapat lihat, some of the rubrics only have the criteria and also the scales. There are no descriptors. Kan, bila tidak ada descriptors, it's difficult for us to distinguish or to differentiate between one interval to another interval. So that's the reason why we need to have this kind of scales. Okay. Contohnya juga, maybe we can have the scale, for example, 20 to 30. Ini contoh 40 to 50 and 60 to 70 and 80 to 100. You can have that if you want to, right? But maybe some of them, all right, maybe some of them want you to use a different, right? They want, for example, you want to have 25%, 50%, ,75%, and 100. So these skills is depending. Terpulang. Alright, sekejap saya bukit munyah.
Ya.
Kita makan biskut tu, makan kopok.
Dah macam kelompok kecil je dia.
Okay. Bagus. Alright. So now you understand that this is the purpose of doing the rubrics. Okay, so nanti bila you when you do your alternative assessment, I hope that you will see this as what we mean is on how to construct a good rubrics. So this is one example. So I think that you can I think that you can do more research on how to construct a very good rubric for your project. Alright, okay. Ada apa nak tanya?
So far enggak ada. So
Ah,
far
boleh.
memahami.
Makan biskut tu Indonesia.
Dia makan biskut Indonesia, make Indonesia tu.
Itu score 4 tu. Excellent tu, tukar bahasa terus.
I mean nakal. I mean dia tilt dia pen dia punya kamera ke apa ke Najihah.
Tengah mencuri biskut.
Dia kongsi biskut dengan Ami. Alright guys. So macam mana agak-agak for the next the project, is it okay? Boleh buat the project? And I think that after this we don't have any formal client like this. Maybe I will monitor your project. Maybe kita akan buat banyak perjumpaan to update your project. Okay, mungkin minggu depan tak ada, mungkin minggu satu lagi macam I buat macam okay, kita buat dalam 1 jam, just update sahaja. What is your project? Is it okay?
Yeah, right.
Boleh doktor.
So there are any questions? But maybe insyaAllah nanti minggu ke-14 ni kita akan buat sekali perjumpaan sekali. Nanti kita jumpa semua sekali dengan Dr. hari ni semua sekali. Alright, so I think that I don't want to have any presentation because of dalam rubrik tu dalam project tu ada dah minta you buat video dan sebagainya. I think it's sufficient enough. There is no presentation, just a matter of to make sure that you are compiling your work in proper order. Alright. Nanti I perlukan Aimi punya portfolio and picture, right? Nanti Aimi share Aimi.
Sorry saya tak sihat sangat, tak sempat nak.
Tak apa, later lah. Punya lu. Alright.
So kalau macam from the first week apa-apa assessment kita buat tu kita put into the portfolio lah
Yeah, betul. Alright, okay. I think that if we don't have anything, alright, I think that better we dismiss, and I hope that you can proceed do your work, and I will update you time to time. Nanti saya akan tanyalah dekat dalam Telegram, dan insyaAllah juga nanti if anything nanti I will share you dekat dalam Telegram. Alright, okay. If don't have questions, then thank you so much for today. InsyaAllah jumpa lagi. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, take care everyone.
Take care you too, alright.
Okay.